greyhound racing in this country, many say it's on its knees. It's on its knees because people don't want to go anymore. There's in Galway we have a track. Nobody who works there full time, as far as I'm aware. Maybe one or two, but there's a really small job opportunity within the greyhound racing industry, and that's often what's brought to this chamber is, oh well, it brings jobs to rural Ireland. No, it doesn't really. There's a few part-time jobs, but we have record numbers of employment. This isn't the time to be saying, well, let's push the jobs of probably about 30 people who could actually be in another, in another job opportunity. Let's put them ahead actually of the welfare of these animals, because there have been numerous exposés when it comes to greyhounds in this country. There's about 6,000 dogs, we've said it over and over again, that have gone missing in the country. They're born, they're not for racing, and so they just go missing. And apart from that, we have about 6,000 dogs that are exported to Ireland at a cost, exported to the UK predominantly. The cost of rearing these animals is taken up by the state. We actually pay for it. All of the money that goes into rearing these animals is done by the state, nearly 5,000 per dog. And each of those breeders, when they sell the animal, they pocket the money. That's about 1,000. I wouldn't love farmers all over the country love to have their animals reared by the state, all of the costs, and then that they pocket the money for selling them overseas. This can't continue. All of that funding is coming from the state, and the way our legislation is set up is that every time we increase funding to horse racing, which I think we do need to do, we also increase funding to the greyhound industry. It's a 80%, 20% split. So in the middle of the pandemic, we had to obviously support the dogs and the horses who were really in our care because we've been supporting them financially. We had to increase the amount of money going to them. And we had to see that same kind of split through the budget, which was really upsetting for me as a Green Party member, but also it was really upsetting to really have it laid out there in front of us that this is the way that our funding is going. But I think one really positive thing in, I think it's 2016, Minister, is that in 2016 there were requirements that both industries prepare a strategic plan and make reasonable efforts to implement it. And the Minister himself has powers to withhold monies if the plans are considered deficient or if reasonable progress on the implementation of those plans has not been made. So it's quite simple, and it's something, again, I know that some of our members and some of those involved in animal welfare organisations have brought to light that actually they're not sticking to their plans. And if they're not sticking to their plans, there's actually legislative grounds to withhold monies. So what we're calling for is an examination of the plans and whether they're sticking to them. And it's not for me to say whether they are or they aren't, but I think, I think that there's a reasonable enough amount of evidence at this stage that they're not. And so we ask that, following the strategic plan examination, that then the Minister makes a decision as to whether it is or it is not appropriate to give over that money. We, again, in the Green Party, would love to see an end to all public finances being used in the greyhound industry, off the back of some of that evidence that I pointed to earlier. I don't think that actually there's any party probably in this House who agrees entirely with leaving aside all funding. But we have to deal with the reality of where we are politically, and this, I think, is a really good step and a really important part of the motion. Look, many have said we need to take a racing-centric breeding model, and it's hard for me to argue that when I don't really believe in greyhound racing in the first place. But if we did take that, and we actually said, let's take that kind of model, then we would put the welfare of these animals first.